Let's get more on the rally in pot
Yes.
stocks and bring in Owen Bennett, Jefferies Global Tobacco and Cannabis Analyst. Owen, great to have you with us. You make a good point about what Robinhood allows in terms of trading of these stocks and what it does not allow. And maybe that's why we're seeing the Canadian names move much more so than the U.S. names.
Yeah, I think the strength in Canadian names recently is almost entirely coming from retail, and within that, the Reddit community. I think there's a couple of factors at play driving the retail interest. First, obviously, the possibility of US legislative reform, meaning that retail wants to get exposure to cannabis on a platform like Robinhood, and you can't buy the US names, so Canadian names are the only option. Even on platforms where you can buy the US names, arguably, many retail investors aren't aware of the US MSOs. It's always the Canadian names that grab the media headlines. Secondly, and obviously, guys, you guys have been focusing on this in the discussion I just joined. So the Canadian names were heavily shorted by institutions, and therefore retail arguably also at the same time trying to squeeze those shorts like they did with GameStop.
Is there also any sort of ETF dynamic here, Owen, that we should be watching out for in terms of names in the sector being dragged higher because of this interest in the Canadian names? When you take a look at an ETF, let's just say, the MJ ETF, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, what you're also seeing now, there seems to be more awareness of the MSOS ETF. Retail investors can get access to that because it trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Arguably, therefore, now, given that offers a lot more value and the fundamentals of the US MSOs are significant. Because right now, I mean, there's a huge mismatch in valuations and fundamentals of the US and Canadian names. If you take the biggest four US names, the combined EV is 26 billion. Last quarter combined sales, 825 million, and combined cash flow from operations was 70 million. For the top five Canadian LPs, combined EV was 35 billion. Last quarter sales just 351 million, and combined cash flow from operations with an outflow of 1.6 billion. So you can see that huge discrepancy in valuation fundamentals. If people begin to become more aware of the MSOS ETF, it's very likely that you could see more money kind of shift into that through buying of that ETF.
Hey, Owen, it's Tim Seymour. Thanks for joining us. Let's just talk about cannabis multiples relative to other high growth multiples. And let's focus on the U.S. because I think we all agree this is a much bigger addressable market. There's already proven profitable operators, and that, look, managing money in any sector is about understanding also where capital flows go. So I think people need to be very aware of that. But talk about where this sector can go and how far into a re-rating process do you believe we are for the top names in the U.S.?
I think the big thing holding back the US at the moment is the fact that institutional money can't get involved. If we do see legislative reform, whether that is safe harbor language of the Safe Banking Act or more broader legislation that opens up the capital markets, we're going to see a huge inflow of institutional money into the US names, and I think that will drive material re-rating.
Material re-rating such as, can you give us an example just for fun?
Well, I mean, you just look at what's going on now. I mean, you look at the US names trading on a next 12-month EV to sales of kind of 5, 6, 7 times. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the Canadian names with not as attractive fundamentals. They're trading on double digit. I mean, so it's easily, wow. You can easily assume a scenario where all these US names overnight move to double digit EV to sales multiples.
All right. Owen, got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.